Good morning, it's October 9th, and this is To My Liberal Friends. Well, Kamala Harris has used all the buzzwords of a typical politician that does not have a proven record or agenda. She talks about joy and how she grew up in a middle-class neighborhood where people were proud of their lawns. She talks about working at McDonald's, even though it was only for a few months. Well, I never worked at McDonald's, but I did work every summer in the steel mills of Pittsburgh while I was going to college. And I mention this because I worked with some of the most wonderful, hardworking men who were proud of their work, but also did not want the government dictating everything about their lives. They were from multiple ethnic and racial backgrounds. They called each other names and nobody got offended. We had Dagos, Polacks, Spics, Krauts, Ruskies, and even had the N-word used. They worked side by side in the soot and the sweat. But they also respected that I had chosen another path, and I was one of the college kids who they embraced and took in. And I can remember one worker of Italian descent. He would grow these huge tomatoes, make his own mozzarella cheese, his homegrown onions, and bring them to all of us at lunch, topped by homemade vinaigrette dressing. And it was during these lunches that I listened to them as they talked about life and the importance of hard work and family. But today, those men would turn their back on Kamala Harris. They were all members of the United Steelworkers Union, but they loved America and would get angry if anyone even suggested this was not the greatest country in the world. They knew we had some problems, but overall they stood by the United States. Today it's become evident that Harris is having a real problem with the working men and women in this country. She expected union voters to automatically fall in line and come to her side in defense. But Vice President Harris's lack of traction with unionized blue-collar workers has emerged as one of her biggest challenges to winning key states, such as Michigan and Pennsylvania, as polls show her significantly underperforming Joe Biden's performance with union workers in 2020. Harris' tenuous relationship with elements of organized labor is reflected by the decisions of the Teamsters and the International Association of Firefighters not to endorse her presidential campaign. The Teamsters' decision not to endorse Harris was almost a tacit endorsement of Trump. When polled, about 60% of the rank and file in the union expressed support for Trump. If you look back to 2016, you saw Hillary Clinton lose two key states in Michigan and Pennsylvania. And right now, Harris isn't even polling as well as Clinton did when it comes to union voters. Those voters don't want to hear her platitudes and lack of concise positions on key issues to them. They wonder how sincere she really is when she flips on issues like fracking. They grow concerned when she supports EV mandates that could cost them jobs in the auto industry as cars are imported from China. Under the Biden-Harris EPA, by 2032, no more than 32% of new cars can be gas-powered. And that's a big issue to auto workers in Michigan. These union workers, they're socially conservative, and they cringe when they see videos of her supporting sex changes for prison inmates. Immigration is a major issue to them. And they believe that both Harris and Biden opened the border to millions of illegal migrants that might take their jobs by working for unethical employers while being paid under the table. Ray Zaccaro is a Democratic strategist that has been working with the unions for a long time. He sees the crack that has emerged. He has said that Harris, she doesn't love to walk the walk and talk the talk like they see it done. She's not a hail fellow, well-met, backslapping politician. And Democratic strategists say the preference for Biden among union voters may come down to his style and personality, something that would be hard for the Harris campaign to address through policy statements or get-out-the-vote rallies. Another prominent Democratic strategist hit the nail on the head. Ray Borisage, a progressive, said, quote, "She's a woman, she's African-American, and she's from California. So there's a set of credibility hurdles I think she had to overcome and prove that she was one of them," end quote. Point is, she hasn't met that task. Tim Walz was supposed to help her with the working class voters, but his performance at the vice presidential debate left him looking flat and bewildered. You simply don't call yourself a knucklehead. Vance totally outshined him and spoke more to these working men and women than Walz did. And if you look for any polling, Joe Biden gets low marks for job approval. What they remember is soaring inflation, high gas prices, grocery bills skyrocketing, and their kids being unable to afford to buy a house because of high interest rates. And this week, when asked on ABC if she would do anything different than Biden, she said, quote, "There's not a thing that comes to mind," end quote. Well, and she also said, and I've been part of most of the decisions that had impact. She basically tied herself to Joe Biden. So much for turning the page and moving forward, because that sure sounded like she intended 4 more years of Biden's failed policies. Just about every Democratic operative must have screamed at the TV when she said that. She just wrapped the Biden anchor around her neck and it could take her down. What did she say different from Biden is that she would probably include a Republican in her cabinet. Maybe she'd name Liz Cheney to some position, but that's not going to win her votes. Senator Tom Cotton from Arkansas summed it up, quote, "A vote for Kamala Harris is a vote for 4 more years of Biden's policies on inflation, the border, and national security, only with less competent leadership." This has been To My Liberal Friends. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed, hit the subscribe button on YouTube.